Everybody, it's Kathy Hester. You are in my kitchen and it is milk maker extravaganza. Ask me anything that you want about plant milk makers. The ones that I have we will talk about and I'll show. There's a couple that I haven't shown you yet. We're going to talk about some favorites. I don't actually have a whole plan of what I'm going to show. So we're going to get some feedback. We're going to make some things. The one thing I am going to make is soy milk back behind me in the Miomat on a different camera. But we've got the Nutri-Milk, the Archmira. We have 3 other small milk makers. The Nutter. These 2 are just from Timo. And I haven't used this one at all. This one I didn't love, but we'll see if we play with it today or not. And I want to look and compare some of these smaller milk makers. Archmira does about a half a cup more than them, and I've been really happy with it. So we'll talk about my favorites. I'll try and help you find your favorite, right? And then we'll make some milks and different things. So I know Nina would like a homemade milk that froths in her frother machine. And I will tell you right now, soy froths beautifully. And I've got all the cookbooks out from things. Nutri-Milk has a thing about coffee and tea, and we'll talk about that a little bit. I haven't experimented with all the frothing yet, but what I would love from you guys is I would love for you to, tell me how the weather is. It is sunny and cold here. It was warm for a while and now it's not. We've had to bring plants in because it's freezing. It's very bizarre weather. And the main thing, do you make your own nut milk, oat milk, plant milk? And what do you use? And I also want to go ahead and make this blanket statement. I'm going to show you a lot of things. I'm not showing my Vitamix because you guys kind of know how to use that. You can ask me questions about making these milks in your high-speed blender or your NutriBullet or any of those things too. I'm not saying you can't do it. And I have some recommendations for the different kinds of milks that you might want to make that might change your mind. For instance, if you make cashew milk, you can make cashew milk in anything. It's easy. You barely have to strain it. Oh, and you know what? I don't have my almond cow up here, so let me bring it up. I'm pretty sure it's sitting right over here. I am not promising to make milks in every single thing because we are a 2-person household. And so this is one that has a strainer, but we'll talk about all of them, okay? So that sounds awesome. So Carrie's in Seattle, it's pretty mild. Joanne really loves the Archmira and bought one for a second one for her boat. It's been on sale off and on. I think right now you might be able to get it for $99 versus the Nutter, which is like $169. And everything has a price, right? Which is why maybe for a while you want to make cashew milk in whatever blender you have. So I'm here to answer questions, not to tell you what to buy and not to tell you how to make your milk, though I have my opinions and I will show you some of the ways that I do it. Oh, awesome. MJ's getting a Nutri-Milk, and if you make soy milk in it using cooked soybeans. And you can, and you know what? I'm going to go ahead and start making soy milk in the Miomat over here, and then we'll come back and talk about this. So we can talk about it. There's lots of different opinions. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is say hello to my monster strainer. It says, hello people, hello. These are some organic soybeans that I soaked overnight. And I'm just going to give them a rinse. Okay, now you're going to, let me make sure I'm getting it over here where you can see This is the Meomat. I really like the Meomat, and it's very similar to the Soy Joya. And you can kind of see down here, let's see if I can come down just a little bit so you can see that a little bit better. There's raw milk, cereal milk, soy milk smoothie, creamy soup, chunky soup, porridge, and cleaning. So it has a lot of settings, which means it has heat. Also, the Soy Joya has one that's similar to this, but it doesn't come off, and it helps blending. It does not strain things for yourself. Okay, so this is not a straining basket, but it is kind of like a blending vortex. And it just sits there when you put it there, which I like that too. Okay, so first thing with any of these machines, you're gonna put the stuff you wanna make milk out of in. Now, one thing you can do too, let me show you this real quick. Soy milk is the hardest to clean. And soybean skins are part of that reason. You can rub them together and remove those soybean skins. It makes cleanup a little bit easier, but soy milk is still the hardest to clean, and I'll explain to you. All right, so let's see. Can you guys, I think you can sort of see, there's a minimum and a maximum there. So I'm gonna pour water to the maximum because I'd like to make all the soy milk, thank you. Okay, and soy milk usually takes anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes because there's a cooking process going on. So if we're looking at an almond cow or a Nutrimilk, so then I'm gonna put, let's see if we can make it where you can see all the things and I can plug it in. I like to put the lid on, have it all ready, then plug it in. Some machines will give you an error. And I don't know if you're gonna, can you sort of see? I can't see that far with the light on it. So we're gonna go down to soy milk and press start. Okay, and it's gonna take about 30 minutes. So while that's going on, I will come back to your questions because I know you got lots of them. Okay, and I'm gonna move some of these guys away. So one question that I always get is, can you make soy milk in like the Nutrimilk and the Almond Cow? So they do not have heat settings, okay? That doesn't mean you can't blend things up. And the Almond Cow, like the Soy Bella, which I don't have right now, has a filter cup. So you put all your stuff in here, and if you hate filtering, that's something's good. The Nutrimilk also filters. So let's also kind of just give you a rundown. I think it's about $185 for the Meomat, $235 for the Almond Cow right now, and about $4.99 for the Nutrimilk, which is a pretty awesome appliance. Anywhere from $109, or actually $87 to $130 for the Arc Mirror, $169, and I think $179 for the Nutter. These two little takeoffs were under $100. So that kind of gives you a range of things. So let's come. Nancy asked, how much soybeans do you put in? It depends on the maker you're using. For that one, it's a half a cup. And you can kind of, with any of these, you can fudge a little bit. If you fudge too much, it will boil over. That's why we want to put our stuff in, then our water, so that it never goes above the maximum line, okay? So, and Cheryl, I don't know if you can get on and block this person or not, but that would be awesome if you could. So, it would be probably like 1 cup is usually the minimum of anything in the Nutrimilk. You can't go past what you can blend in this cup. When you're looking at a smaller one, I use 3 tablespoons of soybeans for the smaller ones. So it kind of depends. Also, if I want it to be more like skim milk, maybe I could try a 1/4 cup. If If I want it to be thicker, richer, more like whole milk, maybe I'll go try to push it to 3/4 of a cup. That's something you'll experiment with as you're working with whatever milk maker you choose to work with. Okay, so with MJ asking, can you use cooked soybeans? So probably there are two methods of making soy milk, and I believe one is called a Japanese way and one is called a Chinese way, and I don't know which is which. One blends then cooks, one cooks then blends. So there's no wrong way. It's just you cannot just blend soybeans, like soak and blend soybeans and use that as milk. It's going to make you sick. You have to cook it. Okay, so that means what I probably would do with these is I would take the soaked soybeans, blend it with water, and then cook it on the stove. And if soy milk is your primary goal, that's a lot of cleanup to clean this, and a pot and a strainer and all the stuff. If you already have one of these and you want to make soy milk occasionally, I'm on your side for sure. But if you're trying to decide which ones are the best for soy milk, I think ones that heat, like the Soy Joya, which I don't have, but people have really loved, the Miomat, which I love a lot. These smaller milk makers actually are based off of the Chinese milk makers that have been around forever, which are personal soy milk makers. Okay. And Susan's saying, I'm trying soy milk with the Arc Mira and the Nutter. They don't say to soak the beans, is that correct? So I have a video that's going to be coming out soon. I messed up the video before it, which is why it's not out yet, but it'll probably come out this week. And so first I do one with the Arc Mira with soaked soybeans. It works great. Be mindful, if you have soaked beans and you're using a small personal soy milk maker, even be a little under the max line because it can boil over more. So that's one thing. I did not have this boil over. I had it to the max. I've done it 3 or 4 times now. I did see in the review on Amazon that somebody had it boil over. So that's what could happen. So evidently, having unsoaked soybeans makes it less probable that there could be a boil over. I made it with unsoaked beans, both in the Nutter and the Arc Mira. It worked fine. I liked the taste a little bit better of the soaked soybeans. Also, when I used to make soy milk in my Soy Bella, which is kind of like this, but has heat and has a smaller basket, and it usually runs around 100, 110. It's about this size, maybe a little bit smaller. And I would say, I don't think it cooked as long, because I think I have a video up about soy milk where I did the Miomat and the Soy Bella, and it was close, but like to me, I always would then cook it in the Instant Pot on high pressure for 10 minutes to make the flavor a little bit better. The Miomat, and actually I can come on over here. I don't know if you can hear it boiling. Can you hear it a little bit? So it's boiling the water, and I don't know if it's because the cook time is a little bit longer, but I haven't found the need to cook it a second time, which, because soy is horrible to clean, I like that a lot. So Susan, long answer, short answer is you should be able to do either. Some of the smaller milk makers like this say, do not do it. If your milk maker says do not soak the beans, don't. With the Nutter and the Arc Mira, I can tell you can do it either way. Be mindful not to go over the maximum, because I think what happens when we soak the beans, it foams a little bit more once it starts to boil. That's really what happens. If you don't find a difference in taste to you or stomach-wise for you, do what makes you happy. I really feel strongly about that. And Joanne says she makes cashew oat milk all the time since it's Paul's favorite milk, and I made some cashew oat milk in the Nutrimilk, which I think is coming up too. And what's interesting, the Nutrimilk talks about soaking the oats for 30 minutes, whereas I don't soak oats for anything else. I didn't the first time I was in here, and it foamed up. It didn't hurt the milk, but it was a little harder to clean. Second time when I soaked those oats, it worked pretty well. And I haven't decided what milk we're gonna make in here, so if you wanna make some hints, let's hint it up. I got some macadamia nuts for someone who asked for them, and now I can't find them. And they were $5 for about half a cup. So I may make a special video for that one. Carrie says, I love my Mia Mat, especially like coconut cashew milk. Have I tried making Brazil nut milk? I have not, and you should be able to make Brazil nut milk. I don't think, let's see. I tried to bring over all the cookbooks. So let's look in the cookbook and see if it's got Brazil nut milk, because I'm pretty sure it does. But I've also been reading all these, so, and if it's, maybe not. Because it's not on the raw milk part in this book. Now, there's a Mia Mat group I would suggest being with too. And I don't have any Brazil nuts, or we would just try it in a minute, but we don't. Irma says, I bought the Archmira and love it. I'm just very surprised with some of the extra features that are in this. And let's see. Joanne is like my doppelganger in kitchen appliances. If I was purchasing another milk maker, I own 5, I would purchase the Mia Mat. And the thing is I think the Soy Joya, which most of you guys have, is pretty daggone similar. And also for those of you in Canada or Australia, I was looking on Alibaba Express, I think it is, where you can get consumer electronics. They had a Yung that looks very similar to the Mia Mat, because I know that these milk makers are prohibitively expensive in Canada, which makes me sad. And okay, Nancy has the Archmira. Oh, that's super smart. Susan says if you save the Archmira in your Amazon buy later, they'll notify you when the price goes down. I got mine for $84 a few weeks ago. This past weekend, I think it was around that. I almost got a second one, but I have so many, I'm already starting to, usually I do all these tests for you, or like if I'm doing a book, I take my photos and then I give some of them away. Oh, thank you, Nancy. I've been working very hard. I actually had only used the Soy Bella until a few months ago, and I went looking for my own information, like to do research, and what I found was a lot of pages of people who didn't try it who had affiliate links, and it made me a little bit miffed. So what I want to do is try all the things, and then let's just get better. Just like when I do an Instant Pot book or an air fryer book or a Ninja Creamy, right? What I want to do is find the ins and outs, and I can't of every single milk maker, because I can't have 100 milk makers unless you guys want to start sending them to me. I can't afford that. And sometimes people will send me things. The Nutrimilk people sent me this to try out. The Mia Mat people sent me to try that out. The Nutter people sent me a Nutter to try out. So sometimes it happens, but let me be very clear on anyone watching this, is that if someone sends me something or if I buy it, I'm going to tell you the truth, right, of my opinion and what I think it does well, and if I think it's a good thing for you or not, because that's very important. And Joanne's saying boiling over is more often caused by filling to the max line with water and then adding the solids. Exactly. And we don't do that on any of these. And oh, here, Now you can hear it grinding. So it's been cooking this whole time. And what it'll do, like most do, not all, but most of the ones like that, the almond cow goes through 3 cycles, and now it's stopped blending. So blend and stop, blend and stop. Can you recreate that in your Vitamix? Of course you can. But I don't want to stand there for 20 minutes. I like to walk away from things. That's why I like the Meomat a lot, and I make cashew oat milk a lot. That's really my favorite go-to milk, and it's like, I don't know, like a half a cup in the Meomat, half a cup of rolled oats and maybe 2 tablespoons of cashews, and it's kind of oatly like. So that works out really well. And Sherry says, I soak my beans for the Archimera, and like you, have never had it boil over. So just put your ingredients in if you're going, especially if you're going to cook. I will also say, when you are using a cleaning function, don't even fill the water all the way to the min line. Just a little bit below the min line with your drop of dish detergent. Because all that spinning, usually we have something that's more, has a thicker viscosity, like soy milk, cashew pieces, you know, right? That has more viscosity. Whew, that was a hard one to get out. Than just water and slippery dish detergent. So I've even done it to the minimum or just a little bit more and had it start to come out. So when you are first using your machine for soy, for cleaning, for anything, hang out for a minute before it starts. That way you can see, oh look, it just spewed out some soapy water, and then you just unplug it and you clean it, and there's no damage done. The people who let the soy milk just run and run and run and boil over everywhere, and it got into their, I think it got into one of their plug areas where we can't get any of these plug areas wet, and they're mad at Archimera. You should have been there the first time you did soy milk. So just know that too. Oh, you know, a link for the stackable containers, which I love. So I ended up getting them at like the kitchen something. If you look up Kilner stackable jars, and I was able to get them, I think, for $25 each, where they were like $40 each on Amazon. And I ordered 3 more. I got my originals from some place that's like Home Goods but isn't. And we only have one, so I don't remember the name. So I'm sorry about that. I do like these because then I have my seeds in one, I have some nuts in them, and it makes it really nice for doing lives like this and experiments like this, for sure. And Lydia says, I'm always confused with how much nuts to use. I have the Soy Bella, and it says a cup. Do I use their little cup or a real cup worth? That is a great question. So I have over here somewhere, okay. Here's some of the cups that came with some of the milk makers. And some of them, I think this might be the Meomat one. I thought this was not going to be a half a cup, and it was. So I measure it. So one of these cups probably isn't a whole cup. It could be, depending on the maker in the future. Hello, future milk makers. Please use a real cup measure, but it's just like a rice cooker, right? We have the rice measure. Remember those? I don't use them anymore either. But so if I'm doing Soy Bella, that's probably going to be about a half a cup of beans, and I'm pretty sure when I did the Soy Bella versus the Meomat, I did a half a cup soaked soybeans in each. That should be pretty close. If you find that it's too watery for you, try adding a little more. When you have the Soy Bella or this is, and this wasn't that much bigger than the Soy Bella. I thought it was going to be. And they actually have cup measures on here on the Almond Cow. You can go ahead until it won't blend well. Like, so if you're like, I want to use a cup and a half, and you put it in there and it just barely squeezes in, then you put it in and the motor's making a weird noise, unplug it immediately. Take some of those nuts out and start again. In general, I wouldn't recommend going over a cup in the large ones unless you see it as a recipe or you've moved up little by little, because remember, there's a motor involved, and if you burn out the motor, your appliance is done. So I hope that helps a little bit, Lydia, but I would say for the Meomat, Soy Bella, Soy Joya, start with a regular half cup, like this guy, half cup. All right. That is a good point, Joanne. Joanne says, be careful with Brazil nuts. I remember that too many Brazil nuts can cause health issues. And so I know there's some Brazil nuts in the Nutri-Milk. I'm so glad I brought out all these cookbooks. Let's see, does it have an index? I bet it doesn't, and it shouldn't. But if it does, no, but there's Brazil, I was about to say basil praline, that sounds nasty. Brazil praline, let's see what we got here. Cran milks, does it have a, it does have Brazil nuts in here, so, and that's for making butters. Where's the one for making milks? So they're saying in here, so the minimum you can make in the Nutri-Milk is a quart, and that's usually 1 cup of the nuts or grains or whatever in 4 cups of water. Though I will admit that I ask the person who starts with an A and ends with an A, well, I can't say it because she'll answer now, how many cups are in a quart. I don't know how many times a week. But yeah, it's saying to do it that way. So you can make it, and you can make it without heat for sure. Let's see if the Nutter has a tiny little thing in here. Oat milk, almond milk, soy milk. Yeah, and the Nutter's definitely asking for dried soybeans, but it's based on these other ones too, but it worked. All right, let's see what we got next. Archmira does not have an online site, so Susan's asking that, and I've been using the Nutter site for recipes. I'm not great looking at the books. That's okay. Don't worry about the books, and in fact, I'm going to be making something. Not sure what I'm making yet. I'm trying to decide if I want to do lattes, creamers, and milks and talk about milk makers and different ones, but I'm going to be doing probably an ebook. If you guys want it enough, I'll make it like the Ninja Creamy and do an experience, which means there's a recipe ebook and demos for all the makers. So you let me know what you want, and you might just get it. But what I do is I just kind of experiment. The Archmira has a little bitty book, and what I think is someone has, see their email, their service is archmira-service@outlook.com. I think they're a small company, just like Nutter. So I don't know where Nutter gets their things made, but in general, let's say any of these, like someone goes to a Chinese manufacturer and says, I like the shape of this green one. I don't like these buttons. I want you to do this, that, and the other. I want you to change the blade thing, and then you have your own product. Okay? So Archmira is either starting a kind of like a startup in things, or they've been around somewhere else in a different name and not doing English stuff, and it's hard to know. When I look on Alibaba or AliExpress, I don't see them. I don't see them on Temu.com. So I'm trying to do some research to see what else I see. Also, because of the success of the Nutter, I'm noticing on some of those that some of these are going up higher there as well. But there's almond milk. So they're saying like 6 spoons of raw almonds. And I don't remember, I think this one came with that one, but they usually come with some kind of magic spoon. And I'd would say it's probably about a tablespoon, but a lot of times I'll put 2 tablespoons of, maybe 3 tablespoons of oats and 2 tablespoons of cashews, or a tablespoon of cashews, 3 tablespoons of oats. You can just kind of figure it out. And Susan, I know that's not exactly what you want to hear, but Susan, tell me what kind of milk you want to make, and maybe I can give you a more direct answer. But I got this, there's walnut milk, coconut milk, hazelnut milk. It's all the same thing, 6 spoons and 1 to 2 cups of water. And why 1 to 2 cups of water? Thinner or thicker? And that's a preference. So if you make it too thin, and you're like, well, that tastes like water, throw in a couple more tablespoons of cashews and run it again on cold. If you've run it on a hot cycle, any of these that go hot, you're going to have to kind of come back and let it rest for a few minutes, because we don't want to overheat the motor. I can take 20 minutes to not kill my machine, right? All right, let's see what we got. We got more stuff. Mia says, I can handle the truth. Mia, I still think Mia needs a milk maker. She's buying a lot of Oatly. Oh, awesome. And Brenda says, I just bought the Mia mat after reading your post. So quiet, and I love it. It is very quiet. I know it's across the room now, but that's why I don't even know if you were hearing it when I was leaning up on it. I think if you want to make a quart of soy milk every week, Mia mat, Soy Joya, Soy Bella would be what I would think. If you want to make smaller things, and if you want to make things like the lattes and the teas, then we're going to need a Nutter and Archmira. Because even on this guy, there's like some of them have tea settings. It's boiling water if you get them from the Chinese sites. And this oat milk means cooked oat milk, which is not what we want here. We're looking for Oatly style milk. So as we venture out into these more like, I got this in this weird site, there's more complications, more reading. Sometimes on Alibaba it's in Chinese and you have to figure out the picture and things like that. Not always, but you know, and if you're up for that, there's nothing wrong with it at all. So I don't want you to feel I'm saying that. But if you're already nervous, if you're already a little confused, and you'd already rather have recipes than a little bit of a helping hand, the Nutter and the Archmira. I don't know how Archmira customer service is. Nutter was a little bit hard to get my replacement, even though they had sent me one as an influencer, which I was really surprised about. And so if you're going to get a Nutter, just make sure that you know, with either of these, I would consider getting the extended warranty to get a replacement. I haven't had any trouble with the Archmira, but we don't know much about the company or the customer service. But I know that it's built well. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Are soybeans roasted? I got, what does this say? I have organic soybeans. They don't say anything about roasting or not. So I don't know. I know that almonds have a cooking process even if they're raw. I don't know about soybeans, if that's what you mean. Now, before you make your milk, you could roast anything. You can roast the nuts, you can roast the oats, you can roast the rice. So soybeans might be the one exception, but I mean, roasting, I don't know if you would get any different flavor out of it. So sorry if I don't understand. And CJ, yay, from Scotland, makes cashew milk in the Mia mat, and it doesn't separate. If any of you guys are also frothing your milks, and if you're like, what are you talking about? So there's a couple of different ways to froth. the easiest one, and the one that most people do, is they have this little thing and they go in, it goes woo, and it introduces air and froths. I'm pro frothing, and I have a Vitamix Air, AER, pitcher attachment, which does nothing but put air and make frothy milk. So kind of going all the way back to the original question, if froth is really important to you and you'd like cold foam as well as hot foam, I would put that in your cart and see if you can get it on sale. Or, as always, with any of these things, go on your desktop computer, go to Amazon.com, up in the upper right, click down, go to Amazon Warehouse, and put in milk makers. Put in Vitamix, put in frothers, and see if you can get something less expensive there. And Nancy says, I've been using the recipes from the Nutter for my Arc Mirror. Yeah, and they will work. The Arc Mirror can hold a little bit more. So, and that's just the way it is. It can just hold a little bit more. MJ, good question. Did you ever try adding chocolate chips to the butter in the Nutri-Milk? I'm wondering if they will dissolve since it's not getting hot. They will not dissolve, but they should be chopped up small. And I was thinking maybe we'd make a butter. We'll see. This is going to be just a big hoo-ha thing. So we're having like the exciting milk maker palooza today. But I did make peanut butter in here, and it was smooth and delicious. I just had a bag of roasted salted peanuts because I do salt. If you don't do salt in your diet, just get some unsalted peanuts. You can even do, they don't have to be roasted, but it added some extra flavor to it. So there's that. And yeah, and Nancy says she cleans with a little drop of detergent on the clean cycle. And we're going to look and clean the soy milk. And we're going to make something with nut milk so that you can see how the difference is. Because one of the main concerns people have is how hard is it to clean? And unfortunately, my answer is, what are you making in it? I can make oat cashew milk and rinse it out. And maybe not have to even put the scrubber in there at all. If I'm using soy milk, I have to scrub a lot of places because it's soy milk. The okara is like glue, and that stuff sticks on stainless steel. And I'm not talking about scrubbing for an hour or anything like that either. So just realize it's not the worst thing in the world, but in the milk maker spectrum, it is the hardest to clean. Yeah, and Linda's given us some Canadian prices, and it's so much more. And it makes me really sad. That's why I know that Apple got one that's kind of like this. And there's lots of things you can do with these, too, for a little cheaper. And I'm trying to do some research on that. But if you go to I think it's AliExpress, A-L-I, like Alibaba is where I could go and go, I want to make something like the Arc Mirror. Let me find a manufacturer. AliExpress, A-L-I Express, is where people are selling to consumers. And that's where you'd like, and Temu, Temu.com is where I got these first two. You can pay, I would suggest on any sites like that, paying with PayPal so that your private information is private. So I did that with Temu before I found out it was totally legit. So it just gives you a little more security, if that makes sense. Joanne says, Brazil nuts can lead to toxic levels of selenium that can cause diarrhea, nausea, skin rashes, lesions, nerve pain, and fatigue. Okay, so I'm probably not making Brazil nut milk anytime soon. But I'm sure if there's recipes for it, it must be okay. And Lydia was saying they are expensive in Canada. That's why she went with the soy Bella. It was $159. And that's much more reasonable. I do not understand why things are so much more expensive in Canada for that, unless maybe there's some taxes and tariffs. Rill just has a soy Bella, which is new. and ran for 30 minutes. Suggestions for soybeans to water ratio. I can see the lines, so have to measure with measuring cups. Oh, and are you saying you can't see the lines? And I don't have my soy Bella right here. I would measure it out for you. I think it's probably 3 to 4 cups of water. And Lydia, if you are at home and you might be willing to throw in some cashews and then how much milk it took to fill up after that, I would appreciate it, and I'll read it out. So I will find out for you is the long answer. But I think usually I put about a half a cup to a cup of the ingredient. And when you're doing something like with the almond cow or the soy Bella with a filter, they should be putting that in, counting it in with where their lines are. And I don't know if they are. I know, Joanne. Joanne says, I'm not saying you can't use Brazil nuts. Just watch the amount you consume. Oh, hey, Mona. And it's going to beep 20 times. That's a lot. It's a lot of beeping. So you can unplug it. Just got my soy joy out and will follow your lead in soy milk. Awesome. Oh, and I'm not sure. Yes, experience on Mel's. Can you explain that to me, Mona? And you may later on. I know I'm behind. Real, if it's posted before, it's because YouTube is hard with a screen reader. I have a soy Bella, the best ratio. You can't see the lines. Great. Got you. And I will find out. I have just lent my soy Bella to a friend, and I can go over there and just measure things out, make some milk for her. It'll be a win-win. And Susan says, thanks, I'm usually a spur of the moment person. I'm gonna unplug this because it's gonna make me crazy. And then we'll come back and we'll finish the soy milk with that, and we could start some almond milk or something somewhere. Mia, I'm gonna smack you. Which one do I recommend for backpacking? The one that you can plug in. So Cheryl and I go camping. And so I am not like one of these backpacking sorts of people. I bring my slow cooker and Instant Pot, and even if we are in a tent, I have a plug-in to plug in my appliances. And one of the things we were like, ooh, we could take the ice machine. So you would have to have, probably a small one, and you would have to have some sort of solar energy that you could use. You didn't think I'd have an answer, did you? And Jane says the Mia Mat makes great soups. I have not gotten to soups because I'm still answering all our questions on milks, but I'm excited. Aw, you're so sweet. Thank you, Carrie. I definitely get hyper-focused and I like to know all the things, but then I know if I'm out there looking for information and I can't find it, you guys can't either, right? Joanne, I should have known you. Soybeans are not roasted. You can sprout them. And I've never sprouted soybeans. But I've had sprouted soybean tofu before. That sounds like something we should do in class. I'm thinking of, for Kathy's Cooking Club, doing some soy milk and tofu things again. But like soy milk and then maybe making some yuba. I'm very excited about that. Hey, Angela. It's so good to see you here. And, ooh, which machine did I make rice milk in? None of them yet. I've not made rice milk. But I'm sure we could. So let's just see. I've seen where you can make it with cooked rice and dried rice, so that would be interesting. Okay, and Linda says when soybeans are grown, they're allowed to dry on the plant until they have the proper moisture content before they are harvested. That's awesome that you know that. And Colleen says, I recently got the Archmira. I tried oat milk a few times and it's just slimy and gross using the worm cycle. Okay, you need to use room temperature. Room temperature, absolutely. And so like if you were using a soy belly, you'd use the mill setting. If you were on room temperature. So with oat milk, we do not heat oat milk. That's why when like this says, and I'll show you, I just want you to be a little bit aware. So there we go. You still can't see that. There. Well, now you can't see it because of my hand. I don't know why that's shining more than the other. See oat milk? No. No. No heating. So whatever your books say, I'm all for trying it out. But we as North Americans and probably the UK and Australia are and Scandinavian countries, maybe everywhere except for China, is looking for oat milk to be like Oatly, not slimy. So there are some ways you could do things, like you really could cook the oatmeal and then blend it and then do some other stuff and let it be its own natural thickener, but honestly, it's not gonna go that well, and only I would try it a few times. Oat milk is the easiest. Oat milk you can make in your blender. Use room temperature. I love Joanne's tip, which is she puts a couple of ice cubes in with the water so that even the motor doesn't heat up. So we want to keep it as cold as possible. We want to blend it as little as possible also. So if we're heating it up and blending the bejesus out of it, it's going to be slimy. Now there are ways we could use that slime for the power of good. That would be a great soup thickener. It would be great to go into a gumbo or a stew and cook it. So if you've made this monstrosity that you don't want, you can repurpose it in some other way for the power of good. If you are using your blender, you want to blend, stop, blend, stop. Feel the side of that container. It should not be hot. Usually I say 20 to 30 seconds at a time. It's going to depend on your blender, what size container you're using. So if you feel it, just don't let it get hot. But if you want oat milk like Oatly, we want to blend it cold. If we're using rolled oats, we don't need to soak. If you're using oat groats or steel cut oats, you may have to soak some. Unless we're using the Nutrimilk, where we will soak those rolled oats for 30 minutes, push the water out, and then start the process. And maybe I don't know, I should look through the comments, but I'm thinking maybe I should go ahead and soak some oats, and then I can show you what that process looks like. So with the other thing about Oatly is Oatly uses an enzyme, and I think it's amylase. And I'm always saying it's amylase or amylase. Anyhow, it also needs to be done supposedly at certain temperatures. But what it does is it breaks down the starch and it makes it sweeter. So I have on YouTube 2 different recipes. One is Meomat's original Oatly recipe. They use a teaspoon of coconut oil and oats, and I think it's a tablespoon of maple syrup, because it gives it the sweetness that Oatly gets without having its sugar, but really that starch is turned into sugars by the enzyme. It gives it a little bit of that mouthfeel, that thick mouthfeel from the coconut oil. Don't have a heart attack. We have other ways of doing this too, but that's one way. And then I also have another video about how to do it without oil, because I know that probably 90% of you watching right now don't do any oil, and I would never tell you to. So adding those cashews in there gets a little bit of that fat in, and that helps it have the mouthfeel of Oatly. Because Oatly is kind of like this gold statue of oat milk wonderfulness. I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but anyhow, we may not exactly get there because we're not using the same chemical processes, or, well, the same enzyme process, not a chemical. I'm sure it makes something happen, on that level. So, okay, room temperature for that. Aw, Carol, thank you so much, and I like your picture. It's very happy. Lydia says, I'd love a plant milk and creamer recipe book. Do you guys want like the lattes too? Those can only be made in the small ones. Well, or they would be a creamer with the small ones. So I'd love that too. And Angela says, I use PayPal for as much as possible. Whenever I'm not quite sure, PayPal is good, and also then you have some recourse and no one has your credit card number. It's just, I buy things from all over, obviously. So I try to make it as safe as possible. And Sandra says, I use the dry roasted unsalted peanuts in the Nutri-Milk, and it's really good and smooth. It was really, really nice for sure. And Rill's saying, I got you, Rill. And Cheryl says, do you find there's a lot of oat paste left behind when you make the oat milk and the Nutri-Milk? It is a little bit. And you know what? Let's go ahead and measure out some oats. And I will just soak them. So I'm going to get like a cup of oats. I think that's what I did. A cup of oats and a, oh, I just untied my shoe. If I fall down, you'll know why. Oats. All right. So I'll go ahead. And maybe this will be just kind of nice, we can see it. So this is my little 2 tablespoon measure I keep in there. And we'll put about a cup of oats in here. And it says for like 30 minutes. If we don't get it to 30 minutes, these are, I don't have the bag here, but they're fairly thick and, oh, wrong place, right place. There you go. So they're pretty thick, nice, and they're sprouted. I got them at Costco, and they're on sale right now. And I suggest you get some too. Actually, I'll leave that out because we'll put some. So we'll come back over here. I will show you some of the Mia Mat, and then I will come back for more questions. I'm sorry I can't see things when I'm over here. And one of the things that I'm doing right now is I'm just pouring some water over the oats. As you can see, nothing very exciting. I'm also think I'm going to tie my shoe while you guys can't see me. I love these Alta shoes, but they untie a lot for me. Look. Alrighty. Okay, so while those are soaking, let's finish looking at this. So this is how easy it is to open it. You see all that soy stuff on there? And I just have a little thing here. I'm going to set this to the side. Okay, and you can also see there's okara all the way around. And I'm going to get a filter. So I typically use fine mesh strainers. I can't find this one anymore. It was a Jamie Oliver fine mesh strainer that's doubled. And I'm going to see if I can come back over here and get you close to here. Okay. Yeah. I think we can go down a little bit because pretty much everything else is going to be here. There we go. Is that a horrible angle? Pretty good angle? All right. And it's still hot, so you've got to be careful. What I find is usually it stops before all of it's there. And what's happening is the okara is slowing down the straining process. So if I just take a spatula and stir it around, if I push down, that will push more of the fiber or in this case the okara, which is specifically this leftover from the soy milk process, which can then be made into other things. So it's also called leftovers from the tofu process. This stuff is gold. It is delicious. You can put it in the freezer right now. The easiest way to get your family to eat it is in mashed potatoes. You're adding extra fiber and protein. Okay, and you can see that is a lot, and we're going to deal with that in a minute. But first, let's finish straining this. So all we're doing is unblocking those little holes. You could put this in cookies, cakes, you could freeze it, you can dehydrate it and make it into soy flour. So like so many of the other staple things that we do, like I always say I get free mushroom powder because I take the stems out of the mushrooms, right? And if I keep pushing, you can see here some fine stuff. Can you see a little bit? Yeah, barely. Some fine stuff is trying to go through the strainer. And this is my beautiful soy milk. Also, as it cools, there's going to be a skin that forms on there, and it is delightful, and you should eat it. And I'm trying to find, oh, there we go. I'm just going to want to get this off of here. And I'm going to move this, then we're going to start washing. So one of the things we can do, and I always just try and rinse off whatever I can. And I want you to notice that it's significantly better. There's still that one soybean stuck to the bottom, and there is some stuff in here. Now, I could go ahead and run the cleaning cycle, but I don't even bother for soy milk. We just don't want that wet. We don't want that wet. I'm going to put a little bit in here. And I find if I don't move the thing around, I miss big spots. Okay. And I can see that there's still some around that edge. I don't know if you guys can see that well. And again, okara sticks. Soy milk is worth it though, in my opinion. May not be in your opinion. And if that's the case, and you don't love soy milk, you really want to make oat milk, you're never going to have this issue. And maybe we should even do a second one. Okay. So this guy, this stuff is not going to rinse off. This is the hardest part. Okay. So even if we washed it, there's this part. And one of the things that's really hard on soy milk is right there. So what you need, I use this little OXO brush. They all come with brushes, but the OXO brush gets under that. It's kind of hard to hold it and show it to you and wash. So I apologize if it's a little shaky. And then I just kind of go back around and I look, and then I'm going to look and see if there was anything up under here. I try to take it one part at a time and keep rinsing. And this is real time. What I'm saying is the hardest one to clean. Now, if you don't have a little scrub brush, it's way harder. Okay. Now I have most of that off of there. I'm going to come around in here. See, it's on my blades. Those blades are probably sharp, depending on which one you have. Just assume it is. Right in there is another place as well. See all under there? And this is on my soy milk videos too. We just have to make sure that I'm not pouring water into over here. So usually I'm not so reckless, but I'm trying to not make you watch this for a very long time. But you just want to keep going till it's not dull anymore and it's shiny. That's all you're looking for. Now, if you're doing this by feel, be careful of the blades, but you can feel when it's gotten most of it off. See? So there you go. And then we've got this guy, and he's actually pretty easy, even though he's grosser than the rest. There are no nooks and crannies. So I kind of like to do the inside, the hard part, and then this part. And I don't like to save the hard part for last. You can run the cleaning cycle, and it makes it a tiny bit easier with soy. It makes it all the way easy with other milks. And then we just put this back on, and then you'll see. I always find that there's some places I missed every time I pick this up and it dries, so I just rinse it off again before I go again. So let me look at some more of your questions. The oats are soaking, and then maybe we'll make something else too. I keep hearing some noise. Okay, let's get back to some questions. Dr. Greger says 4 Brazil nuts 1 time a month. I can do that. And Katie says, I'm still using my Vitamix to make almond milk and cashew milk. I love pecans. Pecan milk is amazing. It's my favorite for coffee. Yeah, and here's the thing. Depending, if you never want to make soy milk, if you don't mind using your nutmeg or your fine mesh strainer, however you strain, you don't have to have all these things. If there's a certain thing you're looking for, you might want it. That's all, no pressure. S says, I haven't been as happy with my soy bell as I hoped I would be. Way too much sediment. Do you mean sediment in the, so when I use, depending on what I'm making, if I'm using an almond cow or the soy bella, which has these strainers, I strain a second time using a fine mesh strainer. You can also put cheesecloth in a fine mesh strainer. Use a nut milk bag. The nut milk bag I recommend is from Rawsome Creations on Amazon. I don't like cleaning nut milk bags, so I use fine mesh strainers. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just also, I don't know. They just make me feel weird. But you should do what makes you happiest. And Peter has a Milla almond milk maker. I've never had a problem with soy milk splitting. The only way I've found to stop it doing so is adding a little soda powder. I don't know about the Milla almond maker, but I'll have, and by splitting, maybe spilling out? Or do you mean it's actually curdling? So I'll keep looking. It splits with the coffee, got it. Usually the problem with that is how strong and how acidic is your coffee. I do know that Almond Cow is now supposedly making a coffee special for plant-based milk. I've not tried it yet. I use cold brew coffee, so that's less acidic already, and 99.9% of the time I drink it iced. So I don't have any problems with it kind of curdling. A couple of things you can do is not put it in when the coffee is like super hot. Let it cool down a little bit. Sometimes that helps. Another thing could be on how you're brewing your coffee to change your method to make it less acidic or to get a less acidic brew would be what I would think of. So Peter, I know that's a lot of things you probably don't want to do, but you might even just try buying a lower acid coffee. If you make cold brew coffee, and I posted making cold brew in a French press, and really it's ridiculously easy. You can do it with already ground coffee, but coarse ground coffee is better. And so I just put it in my spice grinder and like pulse it a few times. Fill up it's probably about half a cup to a cup of coffee to about 3 cups of water. I let it sit for 24 to 48 hours, press the French press down. You can do this in a jar, like a mason jar, and literally put it through the fine mesh strainer. I've done that before too. And try that, because you can heat it up as well, but it'll still just have a lower acid content. So sometimes what can help is like to have some sort of binder. So you could try putting a little xanthan gum in, and by a little bit, a 1/4 teaspoon when you're making your milk, and see if that helps. You can use ground chia seeds, and I use not the bought ground, but ground in my spice grinder, if that makes sense. Okay. Yay, it's apple. And apple, I think this is similar to the milk maker you got, if I'm correct. I may be wrong. This is going to stay up on YouTube, so do not worry. So any of my lives, unless something goes dreadfully wrong, are replays pretty much immediately, I think. So yes, I knew this was going to be a lot of information, but I'm just kind of like ready to have more of your questions so it helps me plan what videos I'm going to do as well. So I appreciate it. Oh, Mary said she's never gone to YouTube before, but she will just for me. I appreciate that, and you, and all of you guys for hanging out with me. And Lou's saying to use your credit card on PayPal or put money in your pay. I've done it both ways. So, but the thing is so like let's say you're buying one of my classes, and you can pay through PayPal or you can pay through Stripe. I never see any of your credit card information anyhow, but I am a legitimate business, right? Somewhat, so if I wasn't and I was phishing you, it could look like you're putting in your credit card information to a legitimate place. But with PayPal, you just log into PayPal, and then I don't get to see your PayPal login, no one would, and then from there, PayPal deals with it. So it doesn't matter which one you put it in. Even if you use your credit card on PayPal, they do not see that information. PayPal pays them. And do I use the nut residues or the pulp or the leftovers for milk making? Yes, and there's tons of stuff you can do. So with the okara, which is a little different, I use it in mashed potatoes. I put it in my Colcannon patties that I've been eating this week because they're mashed potatoes with cabbage and things like that. I have one of the things I want to see is about making a ricotta with it. So that is on my agenda for this week because it's got that nice kind of smooth yet not absolutely smooth. So I think it can make a really neat ricotta to go into a vegan lasagna with oat pulp. Trying to combine oat and nut in the same sentence or the same word. You can put it, you can, like let's say it's almonds, your team almond milk, so you have all the almond pulp. You can either dehydrate that, grind it, make almond flour. So again, free almond flour. So when we make things at home, we get lots of free stuff. And I don't know about you, but I love me some free stuff. You can also put it in cakes, cookies, oatmeals, dog cookies. Any of the other grain or nut pulps can be used that way. When using oat groats, use the same amount as rolled oats. I haven't gotten to my oat groat experiments. But I made oat groat milk when I did outrageous oatmeals, and I have soaking times for all the different ones, and I was soaking rolled oats back then, so I'll tell you that. But I think probably I would use about the same amount and start there, and then if it's too thick, and here's the beauty, if you made your milk too thick, add some water. Ta-da! Right? If it's too thin, open it up, add some more oat groats. Blend it again inside the milk. Ta-da! So it's not hard to win at this. It's just really not. Oh, and Nancy says lattes. Oh, and Apple also wears the Ultra shoes. Yeah, they let your toes be happy and wiggly. Metal pour over coffee strainers are very fine and make a very smooth milk. That's a really good idea too. I often, and we'll probably use this, I have a cocktail strainer, and it's mostly smooth, but it's not probably as smooth as what Apple's talking about. Marcia told me, time a shoe, we can wait. I like that. Kathy says, did we go over the Soy Bella? I just got one for Christmas, but haven't used it yet. So the Soy Bella, I don't have one on me today because I've lent it to a friend, but it has a basket similar to this, like a filter. And someone else earlier was saying they felt like it didn't filter out enough. And I felt that way too with the Soy Bella. Hello, Max. Do you want to say hello to the peoples? Come here. Maxie! show the happy part. Come here. He's like, no. I'll wash my hands before I touch food. Hello. You're a good boy. Who's a good boy? He's like, why did you do that, Mom? I figured if you have to listen to him whine and squeal, you should at least get to see the cuteness that is the Max. But if you don't like how anything is strained, sometimes I will strain my soy milk and I'll be like, I want to strain it again. You can strain it as many times as you want. I think with the Soy Bella, just know if you're making oat milk, use the grains, the mill setting or an unheated setting. So, and Kathy, if you have more questions, I think I have a lot of questions because I've been off like doing all the things. Joanne says making your own soy milk has become the norm. Soy milk is becoming harder and harder to find, and especially plain unsweetened, and it's very true. And it used to be, so most store brands that I've seen are organic beans. With Silk, used to be all organic beans, but only the unsweetened plain in the green carton. And it's gotten much more expensive, and I can find it in like 2 stores. That's why over the pandemic, I had a Soy Bella that I never used. So in 2020, I pulled it out because it was becoming hard to get soy milk and started making it. And then sometimes we'll go through so much milk, and we were getting cases shipped from Amazon. Then we have the cartons to recycle, and it's just a lot of waste, first of all. Second of all, they keep getting more and more and more and more expensive. And yes, do oats and nuts go up as well? Yes, but it's still significantly cheaper if you're going to use one of these like $100 to $200 machines. You can recoup in a year easy if you drink a lot of non-dairy milk. So that's my 2 cents. And Apple's also saying it's also hard to find unsweetened anything without gums and oils, and that's very true. And Apple used to make it the old-fashioned way. Sorry. Maxie, is Kitty letting you up? Is Kitty not letting you down? No. Kitty guards the stairs and won't let Max up and down sometimes. So the old way to make it is you like soak your soybeans, blend them, put them in a pot, strain it with a bag, right? Nothing wrong with that. But I am the appliance whisperer, and I like using tools to make things easier for me. Also, these are tools that Cheryl or your children can make milks in. So that's another thing to think about, who's in your house. And Kathy says, because I'm too lazy to read directions, do I basically soak the beans the night before and add them to the machine? Yes. So what I would do is I would take about a half a cup of soybeans, like a regular measure, half a cup, 2 3/4 of a cup if you like it a little richer. Soak overnight, put in here, close it up, because like it'll open, and then you'll close it up, and you want to make sure it's closed up properly. Put your water to the min or the max line. I can't remember in Soy Bella if there's just one or if there's two. And then press the let's make some milk. And there you go. And you can strain it a little bit more. I always take this out, sit it into the little cup that comes with it, and let all that drain out. You can also open it and use a spatula the same way I do in my fine mesh strainers. Oh, good point. Sherry, time saver tip. I freeze soaked and skinned soybeans into half-cup portions and can whip up a batch of soy milk spur of the moment. I love it. Works well for a single person using the Arc Mira. That is a great idea. And one of the things that I've been experimenting this week is by peeling the soybeans, and it does make the cleanup a little bit easier. You still have to do all the scrubbing I did, just maybe 1 or 2 times less. So I haven't decided if it's worth it for me yet. You used to be able to buy split and skinned soybeans, and I have not been seeing those because I was trying to find those for tempeh making. And Lydia says hi to Max. Nancy says rescues are the best. Yay, Beth! I'm so glad that you're here. Okay, here we go. And Beth says, I'm late as well, but I love my almond cow. And there is no wrong machine to love. There's just the right machine for you, right? You may not want to marry the same person I want to marry, and that's okay. It's probably for all of our best goods, right? So Evelyn says, if you had one choice, which soy maker would you choose? Which is a great question. In making milk, it always separates. What's the solution? Okay, if I had one choice to make soy milk for a larger amount, right now it would be the Mia Mat, hands down. That's what I'm making soy milk in. I think it's, again, we're talking tiny amounts. It's a tiny amount easier to clean than the Soy Bella because it doesn't, you're not trying to scrub Okara off of the little screens, which is just really neither here or there, or the Arc Mira if you were going to make 1.5 to 2 cups versus like 3 to 4 cups. So that's what I would say. And that it's always going to separate. And in fact, it separates a lot more in those cartons than we know because we can't see it. So what I recommend, there's a couple of things. And do I have one over here? Of course not. I think there's, yeah, I've got one here. And I think I have one in here. Yeah. Ooh! All right, so you can see this is separating some. I just shook it up not that long ago. Literally have a really good top. This I got at IKEA. It's on solid. Hold it. That is what I recommend. This I just got at IKEA. And this is even safer. Shake it. You can listen to Taylor Swift and listen to her little song and shake it up. So that's what I think. Jane Max loves seeing you guys. Here we go. Peter, I've heard that you should not soak your soybeans overnight, but boil them prior to blending. This destroys the enzymes. I've heard this makes the soy milk less beany tasting. And Peter, there's so many different theories, and like again, there's the whole Chinese method versus Japanese method too. And it really comes down to what you like and what you feel is better tasting, and that is what you should do. So as long as at some point the soybeans get cooked, I don't care if you soak them or not. I just don't want you to get sick, right? So sometimes if I don't soak the soybeans, it tastes too green to me, or it just feels like it's not quite ready. And if that's the case, then I spend an extra 10 minutes putting it in the Instant Pot on high pressure. I've not found, even when I didn't soak them and put them in the Arc Mira, they went longer than they did in the Nutter for the soy milk. So I found that the Nutter tasted a little greener when I did not soak the beans versus the Arc Mira. So I think the length of cooking may be a factor for me and my flavor profile. So there's a lot of different things. So one method is don't soak before. One method is do soak before. One method is blend then cook. Another method is cook then blend. And kind of the Miamat kind of is cooking and then blending. And I think it still kind of goes through some other processes, but the first few minutes is it just coming up to a higher temperature and cooking, then it blends. So there's no wrong way to make it the way you like it, for sure. Okay, and Joanne says, I never skin the soybeans. It's too much work, and my Okara is smooth and ready to use. And I do agree with that. I think there's kitty mischief happening out there. So I heard Max jump up in the air. And the thing is your Okara doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. Like I wanted to see, for me, the reason I wanted to skin the soybeans was to see if it would make the cleanup a little bit easier. And Lori says, what's my overall feeling of the Nutri-Milk? I really like it. I've got to tell you, I was not expecting to think it was as cool as I do think it is. And we'll do if you guys are up for hanging out, I mean, I know we're going and going and going, so, but I think those oats are soaked enough. And I'm trying to decide, should we make another milk too? I don't know what I'm going to do with all these milks. We're going to make the oat cashew milk. What do you guys want to make? Do you want to make an almond milk, or you want to make a pecan milk? So you guys tell me. And I can make a small one, because the thing about, we haven't really talked about the almond cow. And one of the things is you can, if you don't mind it being on plastic, because remember it doesn't heat up, we can fill this up and make a creamer, a small size. So we have that pecan milk, pecans. Should we make it in the almond cow? Let's make it in the almond cow, yeah. Can make a small one, but what's the fun in that? Okay, I love pecan milk. So, okay, we're all on Team Pecan. All right, now I don't know if you guys can see, can you sort of see? That says 1, this says a half. So and it says it on the inside too. It has a little max line. Like my puppy, it has a max line. And so I have some beautiful pecans. Where Cheryl works, she gets some pecans every year. Okay, and so I'm going to put in a cup. And we're going to have enough milk for a lot of things. I might be making some Ninja Creamy creations for Friday. So that's 1 cup of pecans. And yes, Kathy, I was going to say you can freeze the milk, and I've got some super cubes we might be doing that with later. Okay, so the really important thing about the Nutter is this doesn't go on crooked because it can cut through. Now, it's really hard to do it here. I used to think that would be the best way to do it, but it's not. So I kind of hold it here and shake it back and forth and look around and make sure the line is straight, right? We've got a min and a max line. And then I'm going to plug it in on the other side. Let me see if I have enough water right now to fill this up. I think I do. But I'll start getting some. We have a reverse osmosis. So after we get whatever 4 cups out of the little drinking tank, it can be cantankerous. All right, this should do it for right now. Then I'll need to get more for the Nutri-Milk, but we'll deal with that. Okay, so I'm going to put it on max, hopefully, or I'm going to get some more water. Woohoo, we made it. And then all I have to do is set this in. I'm going to plug it in, and then I'm going to hit the cow. And I'll come over to the sink. And we will move it around a little bit. Woohoo! Anybody dizzy yet? Okay. So from the back, I'm just going to plug this in. Most of the cords are multi-use, right? Even though this goes with the Miomat. And you can see the lights on. I'm going to press it. And it's going to go 3 times. So it's going to blend and it's going to stop. So while we're looking at that, we'll strain our oats. And you can see that it's a little bit cloudy, the water. So there's some starch there. And let me get a fine mesh strainer. I think we'll hold that fine. Come on, do my bidding. And remember, I wash my hands after I've patted max, so don't panic. Nobody panic. I'm going to sit this here and make a mess and just get the rest of these oats out. Sorry, it's hard to do it where you can see it and me not drop everything. So I'll leave this here. So we're just going to press the water out. So that was 1 whole cycle on the almond cow, like as far as 1 blending. So in a minute, we'll do a 2nd cycle. I usually do on it. But what I want you to see how there's some starchy water coming out? And they don't need to be bone dry. I'm trying to remember, I'll rinse them a little bit too. I can't remember if I'm supposed to rinse them. I'll look later and see if I did the right thing or not. But it felt like some starch was still being hung in here. Yeah, and I think that was 3 whole things on the almond cow. So we'll get to go again. Okay, so I'm going to kind of set this over there, and I'm going to get some more water so that we can, here, I'll just change it so you're not just looking at that water. But I need to get some water for the Nutri-Milk, because we're going to make an oat cashew milk. And I'm also going to go ahead and get a 4-cup measure because that's how much a quart is. Going to need more than that, but let's see how much we got right now. I love my reverse osmosis, except for this. Oh, we're so close. We're so close. You can kind of hear how it's dribbly. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and rinse out the oats, and then we can look at the almond milk. We can do that over here. And see, I can touch the metal because it doesn't have heat. So remember that when you're like, Kathy picked up that thing with metal, trust me, you don't want to do that thing. You do not. I have teas and syrups and coffees and all these wondrous things in here. Okay. Let's start this guy going. And I am going to refer to the manual because I have, and this is another awesome milk holder that I have. Okay. Let me double check the oat. So I'm telling you the right ways. And I think we'll do a demo of this another time because this is going on. You guys are hanging in there. Joanne says that she likes using the fine mesh strainer for lattes. No, for oat milk. Nancy, when you use your arc mirror, I would be interested in making lattes and creamers, and there are recipes on YouTube right now using the arc mirror there's 2 creamers that you can make Ninja Creamy Pints out of or use as creamer. One's butter pecan and one is lavender. So there's a lot of stuff in there. I think I have 4 or 5 lattes in there right now. And Joanne strains the oat milk 3 or 4 times. And I agree, you need to strain it to where it's going to be perfectly right for you. And that's really, really important. There's pecan milks. I'm wanting the oat milk, please. Coconut milk, not what I want. Rice milk, oat milk. Okay. And I just want to make sure that I'm doing everything the way I'm supposed to because it's not fair to test these if I'm not. This is all nice and plugged in. So there's a couple of parts. This locks on like a food processor. This locks on, and you want to make sure it's not open. There's 2 filters here. There's also, for those of you, and I have a whole unboxing one. It's like a little food processor, super sharp blade. This fits in here. And this is going to help us filter our milk. Okay. And this helps things move around. So what we need to do is we're going to put 1 cup of oats, and it's the way they say it, allow 30 minutes to 1 hour before draining. I think we came close. Close enough. And if not, and we see some foam, we know it's Kathy's fault. Everything's always my fault anyhow. And I am also going to go ahead, because I want to make this like Oatly, I'm going to add at least 2 to 3 tablespoons of cashews. That's going to add that really yummy mouthfeel that I want. Let's do 3. We're going to live it up. Okay. You can also, with any of the milks, you can add a pinch of salt or not. It can help it last a little bit longer. CJ says I'm such an ace at multitasking, but am I? I do my best I can. And yeah, cashew oat milk is really good. I kind of do oat cashew milk. And I like it because cashews are expensive, and you see me putting whole oats in, or whole cashews in here. It's because I got them like less than half price. Look for pieces. The Indian market can be your friend too, as far as that goes. Oh, hey Brenda, we were just talking about your Rawson Creation nut milk bags. So if you want to put a link in there, you go for it. Oh, Crafty Dragon Knits is there. Don't worry, no one's late, because this went on forever. So we're going to put a quart of water, which is 4 cups. And I keep getting reminded of that. And then we're going to press the butter. Oh, you know what? I'm going to keep this over here because I didn't do it right the first time. So we're going to put 4 cups of milk in here. 4 cups of water in here. No, we were supposed to do the... We're going to take those cups of water. CJ, you cursed me with saying I was good at multitasking. We're going to grind the ingredients on the butter cycle. Why do I not care about this? Because I'm going to make milk out of it. If you're going to make butter, like peanut butter, cashew butter, you don't want to soak them. And these are Kilner stackable jars. They're really expensive on Amazon, but I got them on some kitchen place. So if you Google it, I got them for $25 on like the kitchen store or the kitchen something. Okay, so we just have our oats and our cashews in here now. And let me let you see from the top. And the reason the water is what it is because I'm who I am. Okay, let's take this up a little bit so you can see some of the magic happening. Okay, so here we're gonna lock that on, and then we put this in here. I'm gonna turn it on. Then I'm gonna click the butter cycle, and see, I am reading this step by step. I'm going to set it for 1 minute, so I have to, here, I'll let you see that from the front. Okay, so I have to change it here to 1. And then we press start. Yeah? And see how these are kind of moving it around, helping it go a little bit more. It's not your fault, CJ. It is my fault. I was just blaming you. So, and these are the Kilner containers. I think on Amazon they're like 40 bucks. I got mine real cheap somewhere, random place I was at. But you can, here, let me let you see from the top too. See how that's blending that all in really well? And if you're looking for something written about all these milk makers, if you go to healthyslowcooking.com, I have something for you. Okay, so we're going to open this up. Okay. Now we're going to make sure that's closed. I probably should do fresh water, but I think it's fine. Now we add our water. And notice how it doesn't go out everywhere right now. All right. Close it. And I find this to be really easy to clean up, surprisingly. I know you may be like, what? You're crazy. But it is really pretty easy to clean up. And we'll look at that. Okay. We're going to press mix. And then we're going to press start. You guys see this from the side because it's super cold. So see that it's starting to press it and mix it up. And let's see if this will work. it's a little bit fluffy? Let's see if you can still see it at all over here. Can you see right there? No, you can't see it from that angle anyhow. So when I didn't soak the oats, I would say this much was fluff. And so I think that's why they want you to do it. And it could be particular to this processing. And when you press, so it said, press mix, do not change the default time. So it's going to tell me when it's done. I think it's got 3 more minutes, 3 more somethings. And then we can look at the amount of oat pulp. And I want you to realize too that we can change the amount of oat pulp. As far as like we can then put it through a fine mesh strainer, get some more out, and make it not as milky. And like we could just look at the pecan milk. I think this may be 3 actual minutes. Okay. So we made pecan milk here. You can see the nice fluffiness. It's so nice. And you know what? We can see my frother is a little bit off, but we can see if some of it will froth in a cup. While we're here, why not, right? I've got my frother over there. So I'll see if I can get some that's not frothed at all. My battery's a little bit low, but this is how, and I find that everything froths better right after you make it. It does not, so you might even try heating it if you're doing it for a hot drink and then frothing. I don't know if that has anything to do. And Brenda, this is the almond cow here. There's the little almond cow guy. But you can totally make it in the soy belly. You can make pecan milk in anything. I think that's pretty good. It just depends on what you want. It's not perfect. If you're looking for a really thin, small, frothy thing, soy, I think, does it the best. Oat is the second best. Okay. And you guys kind of see how frothy and, oh, let me make it bigger. That is too small. There we go. And so usually what I do is I take this, and if you want to, even though this was strained, we could put this in here and do a double strain. With pecan milk, sometimes I don't even strain at all, so this is pretty much overkill. You see it from the front too. I've gone too far. It's not the first time I've done that. I get excited and I start watching how frothy it is, and then before you know it, you've made a mess. So don't be wasteful like I just was, if you can avoid it. And if it happens, just know that it happened. And it's part of life, and it's okay. Usually what I've been trying to do is I have these Expo wet erase markers, but I end up getting them all over my hands anyhow. But so that's how hard or easy it is to make pecan milk. And I want you to see pecan milk and cashew milk are the milks that really you can get away with not straining at all. See, look at that. And even when we look inside of here, there's not going to be much. Oh, that's awesome. So Lou says, it's so refreshing to see you make the same mistakes we do. Makes me think I could do it. Oh, yes, you can. I make all the mistakes, and it's okay. So before we come over here to do this, let's look at one more thing. Okay, so I'm going to twist this because it's got like a little cross in the bottom that holds this. And I want you to see one thing, well, two things, three things, all the things. Okay, so there's some stuff on here, but it's going to come off pretty easy. And we'll look at that and see how, this is pretty milky. So what I would do is take a spatula and go through that. But first, let's rinse this guy off. So there's where the sink is. And I just want you to see, and this isn't because it's the almond cow. There is no magic, almond cow doesn't stick. It's because we use pecans. So if you're using pecans, oats, cashews, see, that's it. There's no scrubbing required. Now, should I give it a little scrub every once in a while with some soap? Of course I should. Right? Okay. So the other thing I would do here is I would do this just like I would a fine mesh strainer. And we can hold it and we can go through, because there's a lot of liquid in here. You're going to find this with the almond cow and the soy bella. And so I could keep doing this until it's not wet anymore. And see the milk at the bottom? So I could probably get a quarter to a half a cup more milk out of that. Or I will, just not right now. So what I do want to do though, is I want to dispense this milk. Let's see, did I just put things in our way? No. Okay. So just to make sure, press dispense, press start, then open the spout. And we could do another, why not? Got another fine mesh strainer. Let's just see what happens. Press dispense, press start, and then open this. And see, there's a few little oats in there. I don't know if you, yeah, you can kind of see it from where you are. Let you see the process and not this dirty towel. And then we're just kind of waiting. It's doing it for us. Get a little water. Apple says when the Nutriment milk is in action, it reminds me of a sundae machine, a slushy machine. Yeah, and I think you can make ice cream and slushies. I just haven't gotten there. Brenda says she also doesn't strain hemp milk and does cashew, pecan, hemp, mask the hemp. And we made chocolate cashew hemp milk in the Nutrimilk. That is alive. That's up. Oh, and you know what, Brenda, you have two pictures. Are Brenda H. and Brenda Hilton the same person or not? Inquiring minds want to know. Okay, and so then I'm just going to kind of, just like you would with a tea machine or anything else, get every last yummy, yummy bit out. You don't have to do this. But so see, some of the things have to do with what milk maker or blender is going to work best for you. Is what are you making in it? Do you need heat? Do you mind straining? Right? Okay, so we'll close that off. And there was a little bit. Let's look at that. So there was still a little bit of oats in there, maybe a couple of bits of cashew. So it never hurts to strain again. I think this is the strainer that came with the Mia mat. Never hurts. And then let me throw this over here, and then we'll look at the pulp. And then I think we're going to call it a day today because I got a lot of milk to make, to use up, right? Or to freeze, and we'll talk a little bit about that too. Okay, I'm going to unlock this, take this out, and that's where you can see the amount of pulp. And I don't think it's excessive. It is a little bit wet. Let me see what I can get to. I can probably scoop it in here. We'll find out how much pulp it really is. I think it's probably about a cup. And I could probably strain this more, but I think that it would get gooier because of it being mostly oats. See how it's got a little bit of starchiness to it now? And you don't have to get it out this way. It's a little easier to get out and scrape into something with the inner container in, to me. And I'm short, so I can't really see what I'm doing. I should watch what you guys are watching and see if that helps. Okay, yeah, I'd say about a cup of pulp. So that should answer your question. It might be half a cup. Honestly, where's my half a cup measure gotten to? Probably between a half a cup and a cup, I would say. Okay, so let me answer a couple of questions, then I'll show you about cleaning this up too. This was the Milk Maker Extravaganza. It was indeed Apple. Mary Jean says, if not going to use the heat function, is there any reason to not be using my Vitamix? There's never any reason not to use your Vitamix. If you need to make soy milk, you can blend them in your Vitamix and cook them, or cook them and blend them in your Vitamix. So that is up to you. It's personal preference, okay? It's all personal preference. And I do like to utilize as much hands-off time as I can in the kitchen. That's why I like the Instant Pot, the slow cooker, you know, and there are different tiers of things. So the Nutrimilk is kind of like the Land Rover of the milk makers. It's amazing. It is well built. I have no doubt that this is going to last for my life. I would be shocked. I know they have great customer service versus, you know, the Arc Mirror, which we don't know much about their customer service, but we can get it for like sometimes $85. And I love it too, right? So you don't have to do anything. So know that. And Otters and Elephants says that they are new to my channel. Lots of fun toys I can't afford. And so let me tell you a couple things. So if you're saving up for a good blender, that's great. And you don't need to start with everything. You do not. If you are just starting to cook for yourself, I recommend looking at thrift stores for slow cookers, things like that. Sometimes you can get them inexpensively. You can get sometimes blenders or food processors inexpensively. I've seen Instant Pots there. Also, another way to save money is, again, go to Amazon Warehouse. So on your computer, it doesn't always show on your phone. Where the search bar is up at the top, click the drop down, select Amazon Warehouse, put in blender. A lot of those are just returns with banged up boxes, or I sent back something because I had gotten a better deal 2 days later. And my Breville food processor that's worth $500, I got 50% off because I got it on Amazon Warehouse. They are like visible scratches. Inside the thing where the blades are held, there is a tiny scratch that I almost couldn't find, except I was looking for a scratch somewhere. So, and here's the thing, if it comes and it was all banged up and just a hot mess, you can send it back. So there are return policies for these Amazon warehouse deals. It is often best to get them from Amazon. So if you have Prime and it has Prime, that's usually a good sign it's going to work out better. Then if you don't like it, drop it off at Whole Foods or where Ross's. There's like 1,000 places you can drop off returns now. So that's my suggestion to you, otters and elephants, and thank you for a beautiful name and for hanging out with us. Cheryl says the pulp tastes pretty good sweetened with maple syrup and eaten in cereal. Absolutely. And so like when you're making oat milk, this pulp I would turn into overnight oats. Maybe put some yogurt or some chia seeds. Obviously we were talking vegan yogurt, so don't get testy. And some fruit and different things like that. So there's thousands of ways you can use this. We could also use it to thicken a Ninja Creamy pint. There's just so many ways you can use any of this. Okay, Brenda, I just wanted to make sure. I was like, am I telling somebody else, Brenda, stuff that I should not be telling? Oh, awesome, Nancy. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Mary, I haven't seen you in a long time, not since Ninja Creamy testing last year. Mary's made oat milk and the Nutri-Milk. It was better than what I've made in the past, but still a bit slimy on the second day. The almond milk I made this morning is absolutely the best I've made. So here's another thing. So for those of you that don't like that things separate, things are going to separate some, no matter what, unless you drink it. Like if we used all of this right now, we're good. And in that case, just make a small amount every day for you because you'll be happier. That's why the small milk makers can be a win. But like pecan milk separates so fast. Can you see? It almost looks like it's curdled, but it hasn't. So you see how it's separated and you can see like the little swirls? You don't see it at the top. But it's delicious. It's not curdled. I just give it a shake and it works well. Oat milk, some of the nut milks will last less than a week. And that's when they start getting kind of slimy. So another thing to help tame the slime, you can use that amylase or amylase, whatever that enzyme is. You could also do a thickener. So you could take a little bit of xanthan gum and blend this up together. You could put in some ground chia seeds, and sometimes that helps a little bit with the texture as well. So you can experiment. But the fresher it is, the less slimy or the less weird textures you're going to find. Marcia says, is oat milk tastier if you toast the oats? And would you just toast them in the oven? You can totally toast the oats. I toast oats and oat flour a lot because I make a Parmesan cheese that's just oats and nutritional yeast and a little salt. The trick is once the oats toast, they smell very nutty. So I think it would be a delicious milk. You could either put them on a sheet pan in the oven for 350 for just a couple minutes, or you could do them on top of the stove. Totally up to you. I just use a big saute pan. And that way I can smell them. I like doing it that way because I smell first. I'm smelling oats. Why is this lady telling me to smell my food? Then you smell a minute later and you're like, And then you smell and you're like, oh, that smells like nuts. She's not crazy. That's great. It's all you wanted to know and more, exactly. And Brenda says her 2 cents for raw versus roasted nuts. Depends on what taste you want, and raw are a little more nutritious because they haven't been cooked. But I also have these toasted slivered almonds, and we made for the Ninja Creamy a candy bar I think it was in the Nutter, but it was in a small milk maker, so I used chocolate chips. And the toastedness of them was a great flavor. So another thing is, are you going for flavor, or are you going for getting the absolute perfect nutrition? And there's a lot of questions that only you can answer, but can you do it? Yes, yes you can. Oh, awesome, Angela, thank you so much for joining. Yeah, it's about time for me I wasn't planning on a 2-hour live, but you guys were too much fun to not hang out with. And Apple has some amylase information. It can be found as a supplement and sold as a digestive aid, and it's often derived from pineapple. Oh, I'm so glad you liked it. Yeah, oats are magic. Oats are absolute magic, and you can turn it into anything practically. I make a nacho cheese from oats. You can make anything from oats. I just love them. And one of the reasons I like oat and oat milk and to talk about it so much is because it's the cheapest plant-based milk you can make. So it's super budget friendly. It does take a little more finagling than just throwing some cashews in. Cashew milk is beautiful every time doing nothing. Oat milk, you have to be like, let's don't overheat you. Let's not, do any of these other things. They're a little more trickier. Aw, you're so sweet. Apple's talking about outrageous oatmeals, and you can get the ebook still on Amazon if you're interested. These, I think, are sprouted oats. I have a bag over here. Let me go grab it. Yeah, these are from Farmers in the Know, the ones I've been using. There you go. And they are sprouted. I don't notice that gives it any less slime, honestly, at all. Do I have any last minute questions? If not, oh, well, you know what? You guys can hang out with me or not. I will show you how easy it is to clean. Oh, here we go. It's always hard for me to, there we go. I'm going to just show you this cleaning process real quick. Sorry, you're looking at oat dredged sink. But a lot of people worry that the Nutri-Milk is really hard to clean. And again, if this was soy, that might be a difference, but I want you to see, literally I'm rinsing this off. Let me move my almond cow so I don't get anything where it's not supposed to be. And I may take this just because with the cashews there was a little bit of oil, so it's nice to have a little bit of soap. Oh, already took that out. This I'm going to clean, and you want to make sure you get in here, just like any processor. And I also always sit the sharp things off to the side and never just in my normal drainer or strainer. Then this picks up, and this is the one, if anything, and some of it's because I let it sit there for a while. So we have both sides we have to do. We have the outside and the inside. But do you see how easy this is? And again, it's not that the Meomat is hard to clean, it's that we did soy milk. And I'm just going to do this and get all those little out. But people worry that because it's a larger machine, it's harder to clean, and it's not. And see, these screens are pretty clean. That's where you want to concentrate on. Okay. Then this comes out by me touching this and pulling. Hopefully, there we go. Woo! And the cool thing about this is the top comes off. So you really can kind of get in there well. I recommend using like your straw to make sure you're getting all the little things in the holes. We could do the same thing with this part if we need to as well. But that's this whole thing cleaned up. So it takes no time, even though it's kind of big. The only thing I will say, and I'm going to let some of this water run out the hole to clean the hole, and that's it. So it's super, super easy. And that's pretty much for all of these. If you use the cleaning cycle, same thing for here. I'm literally just going to rinse this out and do the same thing. Materials get stickier. The ones that have, you know, the filters, you're going to have to clean it harder and you're going to need a really good brush. But other than that, you're good. With the Nutri-Milk, the one thing I would say, I would typically, while it is top shelf dishwasher safe, I would not do it for milk. When I make nut butters, it's a lot oilier. That's when I would put it in the top rack. And I would probably put it on a lower heat just to ensure that my $500 appliance is going to last forever like I want it to. Joanne says, interesting machine, but expensive, especially with all the tools you own. And the thing is I think there's some good reasons for wanting this too. And I think that this is right for some people. Just like I think that I find it a little bit weird. The Almond Cow is more expensive than the Miomat. And to me, and again, this is my perspective of, yeah, I want to make soups in there. Yeah, I want to make every kind of milk, including soy. No, I don't mind straining through a fine mesh strainer. That leads me to Miomat's a great fit for me. If you're like, I am never going to make my own milk because I am not going to strain anything and that is BS and I'm not going to do it, hello. Let me introduce you to the Almond Cow or the Soy Bella, where you might have to clean a little more, but maybe you don't care because you just didn't have to do the one thing you didn't want to do. And that's why when people say, what's the one milk maker you would recommend? It depends on the person. And I think if you're making a lot of nut butters, and if you're making, because you can make 2 quarts in here. So I'm making 1 quart, but you can make 8 cups at a time. So a large family, this Nutri-Milk, like I'm thinking my friend Dawn, we just went to Costco and what are those, half gallons? The big ones, the big oat milks, she buys them 6 at a time. And that gets really expensive as prices are going up. Costco is less than buying, you know, a half gallon of Oatly. Maybe it's a whole gallon. Can't remember. It's bigger than just the cartons of Oatly, which I think are a half gallon. So it depends on that. And if this is pretty easy to clean. And if you're making nut butters, because like I was going to get some almond butter to make almond milk, and I was like, how much is nut butter now? And so I can wait till Sprouts has a sale or some bulk place has a sale on nuts. And that also, you know, like the first year of you getting a nut milk maker, it may not be 100% return yet. It's the time after that, for sure. Now, and by that I mean the larger ones when we're talking 185 and above. And it depends on how much milk you drink. Okay, is the oat milk you made just slimy? I don't think it's slimy. Doesn't look slimy to me. Not to me. I can tell it's unsweetened. Yeah. Nope, doesn't taste slimy to me. But again, that's an opinion. Lori was asking that. Sandra says, I use the brush that came with my Nutri-Milk to lightly scrub it, especially the edges of the screen. Never put it in the dishwasher. It's quick to clean. Absolutely. And so they're really all quick to clean it. And I wanted to show you again the soy milk cleaning because I will tell you it is the hardest, but it's not that hard. It's just like regularly cleaning. It's just getting up under the blades, right? And being careful. So, and each machine comes with a cleaning tool. So you'll have yourself covered. I have an assortment of them, and then I have a couple of OXO brushes that I really like. So if you're watching this not live or live and I just didn't get to you, ask your question, put it in the comments. I would love to answer it either in another video or maybe a post, or maybe if you request a recipe, it might show up magically in a new ebook that I'm creating, okay? Thanks for hanging out with me, and you know, I'm here if you've got questions, and I'll talk to you guys real soon. Have an amazing rest of your week.